Et rebonsoir à vous, les addicts du plastique, les accros à l'acrylique. Bienvenue sur Nicoprime TV pour la suite des reveals de AMG concernant ce mini Stravaganza. Donc là, on est sur la partie MCP qui devrait démarrer incessamment sous peu, hein. Donc, on a eu une partie très courte pour Shatterpoint. Si vous étiez pas là, hein, ça a duré un petit quart d'heure. Alors, a priori, est-ce que MCP va être du même acabit? Je ne sais pas, on va voir. Je laisse en fond parce qu'il démarre sans prévenir, donc je laisse en fond la diffusion du stream d'AMG. On voit défiler des vieilles photos, donc jusque-là, on n'apprend rien, tout va bien, hein, mais bon. Rebonjour, rebonsoir à tous, hein, pour ceux qui reviennent après le live qu'on a fait tout à l'heure pour Shatterpoint. Un peu déçu personnellement pour Shatterpoint, même s'il y a du bien. Il y a du bien, hein. Je trouve très bien qu'il y ait un peu de troisième trilogie parce que bah, c'est générationnel. Il y en a qui préfèrent la première, d'autres la deuxième, d'autres la troisième. Donc peut-être que ça va mettre un petit peu de sang neuf aussi à Shatterpoint avec cette troisième trilogie. Et puis bah, ce qu'on a vu des quelques annonces, on va dire, de ce qui arrivait. Moi, je suis plutôt content, hein, un Qui-Gon Jinn, bon, voilà, hein, moi, je suis content. Moi, je suis content. Après, le son est bon, merci Elaria, hein. J'ai normalement pas touché au réglage, de ce qui donc on devrait avoir le même réglage, pour leur son à eux quand ils vont arriver. Donc, mais dites-moi, hein, hésitez pas à me dire si jamais ils sont trop forts, pas assez forts et cetera. J'essaierai de faire, les trades au fur et à mesure de ce qu'ils disent, hein, mais des fois, vous parlez en même temps que d'écouter, je peux louper des trucs. Donc, oh, un professeur roulette, sans roulette, personnage useless, mais bon, c'est pas grave. Alors que les X-Men, est-ce qu'on va avoir des nouveaux X-Men pour mon Lulu? Est-ce qu'on va avoir des 4 Fantastiques? Est-ce qu'on va avoir des nouveaux méchants aussi? Parce que, au bout d'un moment, c'est bien les gentils, mais il faut des méchants, quoi, hein. Donc, je ne sais pas à quoi m'attendre, en fait. On sait qu'il y a encore quelque chose enfin, quelques sorties qui ont été dévoilées à l'Adepticon qui ne sont toujours pas arrivées. Donc, bah, ça, peut-être qu'on va en savoir un petit peu plus là au début, avant qu'ils passent aux vraies news et à la roadmap. On va voir. En tout cas, un peu aussi déçu qu'on n'ait pas eu de roadmap, hein, visuelle, à la fin du 1er live, pour Shatterpoint. J'espère que pour MCP, on l'aura. On verra. On verra. Ou est-ce que c'est comme ça pour tous les jeux? Bon, normalement, c'est une année sous le signe du X. Ben, écoute, je sais pas de quoi tu parles. Il y a un doute. Il y a un doute sur de quoi tu parles. Ah, ça y est. Alors, je remets leur fond. Hop,
2025, we are
voilà,
here today for the Marvel Crisis Protocol
voilà.
roadmap and some
Ah,
fun gameplay surprises. I'm Will
ah,
Schick,
the
the
fun
VP of
gameplay
Creative Development and
surprises.
Strategy for
Donc,
Time Mass Games, and I guess we're just going to kick things off right
ah,
away
ah,
here. So
il
let's
démarre
dive
direct.
in and
Merci.
take a
Allez
look
hop,
at some
c'est
cool
parti.
stuff that's going to be coming out here in the next few months,
Donc,
early 2026, I guess,
des nouvelles sorties
for
là pour les
Marvel
quelques
Crisis
mois,
Protocol.
les quelques prochains mois. Donc, bah, on les
These
connaissait déjà,
fine
mais là, on les
armored
voit peintes.
lads and ladies
Donc,
were
Iron
shown
Lad,
off at
Iron
the
Monger,
Adepticon
Kang, le Conquérant et
2025
Rescue.
roadmap. But
Rescue
of
qui est
course,
bizarrement peint
we
en
wanted
bleu, mais
to
bon,
take a relook at them.
pourquoi pas?
We've got some cool reveals for them as well.
Pourquoi
But
pas?
of course, Ironland, Ironmonger, King the Conqueror, and Rescue are going to be coming
Ah,
early next
ah,
year to the
en
game.
couleur, elle tape
And let's
bien
go
quand
ahead
même,
and
hein.
start off
Elle
with
tape bien quand
Iron
même.
Lad. So
Alors,
Iron
Iron
Lad
Lad, un petit
is a new
profil.
three threat mid-ranged
Donc menace
attacker.
3.
He of course has some pretty solid durability thanks to
Ouais,
neurokinetic armor
portée
and
3,
temporal
4.
divergence superpower, which allows him to reroll the attacker's dice as he manipulates the time stream.
Comme il
For
manipule le
those in
temps,
the
il
know, we
va
all know
jouer
that
sur
Iron
les dés
Lad
de
is destined to
l'adversaire.
become King the Conqueror, although he often tries to work against that destiny. He
Bon,
is going to be
on fait faire un petit
good
peu un fluff.
inclusion in several new or several affiliations as a new character,
Ah, il va être
and a very
disponible dans
fun
plusieurs
one to kind
affiliations.
of utilize and play around with his suite of different abilities and all of that stuff.
Nathaniel
Ironmonger
Richards.
is the next one we
Alors,
want to take a look
Iron
at.
Monger, hein,
This guy is
Obadiah
unique
Stan.
in probably an
Stan.
interesting
Stan.
and somewhat
Bon.
unexciting way until you really start to think about it. He's the first three threat character to be on a
Donc menace 3
65
aussi.
millimeter base. And of
Menace
course, he
3,
comes
mais avec un
loaded to
gros
bear for
socle, hein.
offense. He has a lot of really great attacks, some high durability.
Donc
But that
beaucoup de
65
grosses
millimeter
attaques,
base, along with his
une
ability
grande
to place himself, don't
durabilité.
underestimate it. He is very potent in Criminal Syndicate rosters, as we saw in
Donc
testing and
Criminal
everything else.
Syndicate.
And a lot of our effort actually went into making sure that a 3-threat on a 65, with the affiliation selections that he winds up in, was well balanced within the objective grab game and all of that stuff.
OK.
But Ironmonger quickly became a
Normalement, ils l'ont
staple in
bien
many of the
équilibré justement
testers'
pour contrer,
lists and
selon
rosters.
ses
We
affiliations
found him to be a very fun
avec
and
sa
very
taille de
cool
socle
character.
pour
The
éviter
miniature is
des grabs,
glorious.
automatiques
He comes
de
with a lot of different optional bits, so if you want him to have him shooting the missiles or
donc
doing
OK,
different
il arrive
special
avec plein de
effects,
bits pour, modifier la
our
figurine.
team under Evan
Des
and
missiles, par
Marco
exemple,
went really full bore on Ironmonger and all of the different things you can do
beaucoup de
with that
Benoît.
miniature.
Pas passer
Perhaps my favorite from this set,
2
maybe
figurines pour l'instant.
outside of King, who we'll talk about in a little bit, is Rescue.
Alors Rescue.
Rescue is really another first, as Ironmonger is the first 3-threat on a 65. Rescue here is the very first kind of true focused healer for Marvel Crisis Protocol. As crazy as it is to say,
OK, donc c'est
6 years
vraiment
into the game and
un
its
soigneur.
development, but we now have kind of a DPS healer coming to the game with Triage. She can chip enemies down while healing her allies back to health. But
Avec son
Medevac's really where it at.
Medavac,
This was
ouais.
a really awesome ability
Triage
idea that we
aussi,
were
c'est
able
une
to
attaque
iterate
qui
on
permet de
and
redonner
pull
des points
in.
de vie, aux
The
potes.
idea that she can effectively place a character
Donc
who's
vraiment
now
un personnage
danger,
support,
heal them, do
à
all this
donf.
different stuff.
J'adore.
Makes her really strong at doing what she does, which is
2
keeping her
têtes
team
différentes pour
going and
Rescue.
alive.
Oui. Oui.
She became really good friends
Enfin,
with
je sais pas, mais en
She-Hulk
tout cas pour
and
la figurine.
Hulk's, as you can kind of imagine, for her ability to keep those big characters on the table for a lot longer. And she fits pretty well
Avec un
into
Hulk,
everything
un Medivac
in
derrière
her
un Hulk.
affiliations, one of them being A-Force as well. And the last one, who we, of course, we save for last,
Kang.
is King the
Alors on n'a
Conqueror.
pas le
King,
profil,
we're
mais
not
on
quite
a
ready
des
to show you what he's got yet in terms of his character
ils sont
card,
pas
but we
encore
did
prêts à
want to
nous
share,
montrer ce
I think,
qui
what really stands out for this character are the Team Tactic cards. And these obviously go back a bit to Iron Lad as well, since they're Nathaniel Summers, Richards, excuse me, not Summer. I'm thinking Nathan Summers, which is Cable. Nathaniel Richards tagged. The team overall on development, Andrew Dursum, Ben Ransom, primarily did some great exploration on how to take these Team Tactic cards, take the idea of chrono manipulation and all the nutty stuff that Kang does.
Donc les
And
cartes
use the
de
round
stratégie qui
tracker
sont
as
supposées
something to
le
track,
rendre
to be
encore
able to
plus
borrow
représentatif
health
du
from the
lore.
future to the
Donc
present
je ne sais
and
pas,
how these
mais
things
enfin
interact
oui,
with each
il
other.
navigue comment il
The
navigue entre
pressure
le
luck
présent, le
mechanics that are
futur, et donc
inherently
ça
involved
donne des
in these
mécaniques qui vont mettre de la
just really
pression,
kind of
en fait.
brings the whole Kang experience home as this centerpiece kind of
À
character
voir,
that's going to be
hein.
the linchpin for some squads the players are going to build.
Le premier de la famille
And really
Richards.
drive
Ouais.
home the fact that he is
Ah,
the main
peut-être,
character wherever he shows up when you're playing with his full suite of tactic cards, with all of his different abilities and everything else. So really excited to be able to present more about this character, to have players really start to understand what Kang as this premier Marvel threat is going to bring to the game. And then also just to be able to explore new design space when it comes to how these tactic cards interact and what we're able to continually innovate and come up with to make the game more exciting, more thematic, and to tell the story of these Marvel characters on the tabletop itself. Another pack that we showed off at Adepticon this year was a return to the Marvel Cosmos with Adam Warlock, Moondragon, and Quasar.
Donc ensuite Adam Warlock, Moondragon et Quasar.
Held that mantle. These characters, glorious sculpts, some of the best that have come out of our studio, and that's saying a lot when it comes to the engineering skill, and just the incredible posing, the effects, everything.
I mean,
Moondragon,
les poses sont incroyables, c'est ce qu'ils ont réussi à sortir de mieux jusqu'à présent en termes d'engineering.
I'm not a huge Adam Warlock fan. I love that miniature, to be quite honest.
Adam Warlock,
and speaking of Adam Warlock, let's talk about this character. Let's take a look at his rules and what he's bringing to the game. So one of the really fun things about this box is it does bring back an oldie but a goldie from the early days of Marvel Crisis Protocol, the Infinity Gems. And so you, of course, Adam Warlock is the big foil to Thanos. In the Infinity Gauntlet saga, and we really
en même temps, Warlock,
Menace
7, ça me surprend pas.
One of our big development like pushes for him was to show that he is the life to Thanos' death, and so a lot of the beats, a lot of the ideas for abilities that kind of came out of it.
C'est l'opposé de Thanos. Si Thanos c'est la mort, lui c'est la vie. Donc,
how do we kind of play on the idea that these are yin and yang characters and they push against each other? He also brings a brand new Infinity Gem that is specific to Adam Warlock. We really wanted to
Donc
show off the fact that
spécifique
he
à Adam
has
Warlock.
a high affinity, a unique kind of relationship with the Soul Gem. So he brings the bonded Soul Gem with him. He always does have to take it.
Il a toujours
Or he
l'obligation de la
wants to
prendre, mais
always
bon,
take it basically
niveau 0.
with him. And this kind of like ties into his old power set and everything else that goes along with him. And then of course you have the opportunity and flexibility to bring along an additional gem if you so choose.
Il a aussi la possibilité d'avoir une gemme additionnelle. Donc,
coming next, the Guardians of the Galaxy won't be the only affiliation getting reinforcements among the Marvel Universe. We also have some Asgardian reinforcements coming with Valkyrie on Lindale.
Puisque Adam
we got a little error on that. Aragon is Brunhilde's Pegasi.
Donc Valkyrie
this
sur
is
son
Valkyrie
Pégase.
from the Exiles. So
Menace
not
4.
the Brunhilde who has been released previously. She doesn't have her steed yet, maybe someday. Also known as Valk. And she is going to be coming as a mounted character on her Pegasi. Just another amazing miniature, completely knocked it out of the park, super dynamic.
Ok, bon, bah, vu qu'elle vole, elle a le tech wing. Pour 3, elle peut se mettre à 2 d'elle-même. Ok.
With Malekith on his Bat Tiger. Her whole suite of abilities is all about mobility. She has some really great play patterns.
Ouais, elle a plein de choses pour
pretty
la
high
mobilité.
ceiling to get everything to work out, but when it does, you can wind up just bouncing all across the board. Really, really dials in that whole feeling of like soaring through and charging through the ranks of the enemy on your mounted steed as you attack with all the different weapons and show off the Warrior of Legend.
Elle joue vraiment sur la mobilité et la mobilité des autres.
And the Warriors 3 rules not quite yet, but of course another intriguing character in terms of being 3 characters on a single base.
Donc,
we really like to do these with the groups that are, you always think of them together, right? I think there's always an argument that you could split them up. But when it comes to like the Warriors 3, it does mean the Warriors 3, much like the Wrecking Crew. We kind of envision them as the Wrecking Crew. This leaves us opportunity in the future to, of course, split those characters up and offer them individually for players who want to be able to take 1 or 2. But when really looking at these thematic groups where their strength is in their unity, is in their teamwork, this is a fun design space that we always get to do, and working on the Warriors 3 was also a really fun one. They'll bring a lot, I think, to Asgardian rosters as well, based on their threat level and everything else. So these pair will also be coming out sometime early in quarter 2.
Donc ça devrait arriver
with all of the dates that we say on these streams, of course, always subject to change based on logistics, global, like shipping nonsense, everything else that goes on with the world. We try
Aujourd'hui, on n'est plus sûr de rien avec ça, avec les
that,
global nonsense, donc
les
non-sens mondiaux.
So I talked, if you were with us at the start, for the opening ceremonies, I mentioned that one of the things we've been doing a lot as a studio is utilizing bandwidth to try and do different fun things, to go back to some stuff that we used to do. One of those things was making really awesome trailer videos. Tony and Dallas worked really hard on this one. It is phenomenal, and we want to just kick off the next round of previews with a very cool cinematic trailer.
Ok, donc on se tait, une petite vidéo, une cinématique. Okay. Oh oh! Ça va mon Ludo, tu kiffes? Bon. The future is not mutant. Ouh. The future is not mutant. Donc alors, opération zéro tolérance, les sentinelles, Bastion Nimrod. Ok. Et ben voilà.
Right. Well, whether you think
bon,
the future is mutant
avec
or
Avoc,
not,
effectivement, avec Avoc.
A lot of cool things to look at that fill both those roles. So let's start off with the mutants themselves.
Alors, commençons par les mutants. Donc voilà, on a Moonstar, Avoc, Jubilé et Multiple Man. donc
the
le
X-Men
multiple.
ranks, and also
Bon, bah,
bringing a
c'est très
brand
cool.
new X
Ça
Factor
complète,
affiliation with
bien. Et
both
puis bon, les
Havoc and
Havoc,
Multiple
quand
Men
même,
having
hein,
some
les Farkas,
pretty starkly different leaderships on how to
ah,
play that affiliation.
avec une nouvelle
Just a
mécanique
very fun
d'affiliation, un
set of
nouveau pouvoir de
characters, and
commandement.
of course we finally get to tick off my classic X-Men shirt that was debuted when we first launched the X-Men at a mini strab and revealed them. So
Ah,
Jubilee
ça,
is
on verra
now
Benoît.
finally coming to the game, which means we have all of the core
Donc
X-Men
Jubilé, voilà.
from my X-Men shirt. So kudos there, very very
Avec Jubilé,
exciting.
effectivement, on a,
And
voilà,
I was
Elon
going to bring
Multiple.
the shirt, but then
On a, il
it
manque,
feels like
si,
it
il
would be
manque,
weird if I had like unbuttoned the official AMG shirt and
Avalanche?
just show it.
Non, pas
It
Avalanche.
felt too much.
Il en manque un des
Mutants
primaires,
overall, though,
Ludo, hein.
in Crisis Protocol, we felt internally had just been enjoying
Oui, c'est pas
this
vraiment des nouvelles
dangerous
annonces
sense of
puisqu'on les avait
superiority
vues
for too
sur.
long, and it was time to really dive in and start creating some countermeasures here to allow
Alors,
players out there
contre-mesure à tout ça,
who felt
effectivement, on
affronted
va
by all of
avoir.
these mutants to be able to combat the threat. And with that, we of course have our new Sentinel characters
Polaris,
that are coming in with Bastion,
Bon,
Nimrod,
alors
and Omega
Bastion,
Sentinel.
Nimrod, Omega
I believe
Sentinelle.
Nimrod
Bon,
wound up in the case at
bah,
AdeptCon.
franchement,
If you got to see that miniature,
bah,
kudos
ouais.
to you. It's phenomenal. The Bastion just looks amazing. Omega Sentinel as well. All of these characters, again, the engineering team just continues to level up over and over again when it comes to the posing, the
Ouais,
dynamism of the miniatures, and
c'est
just
beau
what
quand
we're
même, hein.
asking of them to be
C'est
able
beau
to
quand
do.
même, hein.
The amazing artwork by Patrick
Bon, ça va
Brown behind them as
renforcer
well. Josh
l'affiliation
Malone,
des
our art director,
Sentinelles, hein, je pense,
continues to
parce que
knock it out
là,
of the park with that.
hein,
Bastion,
Cannonball.
of course, brings a brand new leadership
Ouais.
wholly dedicated to the Sentinels affiliation that's going to
Donc, ils ne
allow
sont
them to
que
be able to step up
Sentinelles,
their
hein.
game against
Mais bon,
those
ça,
deplorable
du coup, on va
mutants.
pas être obligé de
But
jouer
it
que des Sentinelles si
also
on veut jouer
gave us an
l'affiliation, quoi.
opportunity when working on these characters to go back and revisit the original Sentinels to really
Ah, et
redefine
donc
the
ça
affiliation
va
for the
permettre
modern
de
age as a potent and fully
redéfinir,
fleshed out
enfin
group.
de.
And
A priori, on va
so
avoir un
today,
retravail des anciennes Sentinelles.
after the stream, you're going to be seeing a couple of new game content updates. The first of which that we want to talk about is a brand new
Alors,
character rebalance batch, and we can go ahead and take a look at
donc
those new
alors,
Sentinels
ils ont
and how the
des
Prime Mark
modifications
IV
justement
and
sur
the
des anciennes
Sentinel Mark
fiches
IV
et
have been
notamment
updated
la Sentinelle
for
Prime
a
MP4
brand
et
new
la
age
Sentinelle
and ready
MP4.
for Bastion to come in and lead them to victory against the mutants.
Ouais,
Some of the big notes
modifié
on
pour que
these, and
Bastion
you can't
puisse
see
en
it here,
prendre
but you will when the document gets posted. The injured side of these
lead.
characters has been retuned to be a little more player friendly to offer some more opportunities
Donc ils ont été aussi
compared to
modifiés
the
sur leur
previous
côté
one. And I think the favorite
blessé.
one, the favorite new addition, which we can see on this, is the new acceptable collateral damage superpower, which
Acceptable
as we were playing
collateral.
through, as we were looking at these things, how to make this affiliation work better, how to make these characters feel a little more seamless on the table. You know, one of the big things is that because they had large bases, it was very difficult to place them on certain terrain.
Ouais. Donc en
Terrain
gros, il
densities and
explique
things like
que
that. So
comme ils avaient
now
des gros
your
socles,
big
des fois
stompy
c'était
robots
difficile
can just do some big
de les
stompiness
jouer et de
on
les
those cars
placer.
and things that get in their
Maintenant c'est
way and
fini,
just take them off
si
the
j'arrive en
table.
contact
So
pour
there's
prendre
no
des corps, bah, en
hiding
gros ils le détruisent. Quoi.
for
Parce qu'il fait moins de taille.
those filthy mutants to be able to just sneak around and stop you from being able to place where you want to. This has an unintended consequence, or maybe an intended consequence, of when you're playing the Sentinels and you get to place it down and smash the train. It feels really fun. It feels really thematic.
Bon.
The Sentinels aren't the only ones in this rebalance update, however. You're also going to see fixes to and readjustments to several other characters. Cassandra Nova, another character
Cassandra
within
Nova,
the Sentinels affiliation, has gotten a bit of a tweak and some updates as well. Dormammu, the Dread Dormammu,
aussi.
has also seen some updates and adjustments to how he plays, specifically with the leadership and when those things trigger. There's going to be a development article that's going to go into all the thought processes behind that, so you can look forward to that later today, along with the cards themselves. What I want to do here is pretty much just cover kind of the overview of what to expect, get you hyped for when those things post up on the website so you know what to expect.
Ça va être disponible sur le
Emma
site web.
Frost was another one in the rebalance. She perhaps has the most dramatic rework of all of the characters in this current cycle. We really wanted to dive in and take a look at her transformation mechanics, how that process was working, how that play pattern was going. Also really define roles within them. So what you're going to see is that the diamond form and the telepathic form have much more reason, separation of kind of their roles, what they do on the tabletop. We amped up the durability of the diamond form by quite a bit, increasing her defenses in that form, increasing her ability to be offensive, and then smoothing out the way in which she's able to transform back and forth so that players have more agency and control over those two forms, then you don't feel like you get locked in. to a suboptimal play, while still having to make important and critical choices in the way in which we envision that character playing.
Bon, en
Last
gros,
but
ils ont
certainly not
redonné
least,
au
there's a host
personnage
of
la
other
vision qu'ils
characters who got
avaient.
really minor adjustments, mostly stamina increases, which have had a dramatic impact. We talk about this a
Donc,
lot when we discuss
ils ont fait
character
une
rebalances and
modification
those
sur
kinds of
plusieurs
things.
autres personnages,
Sometimes
mais
changing one
essentiellement
stat
des
by
nombres de
one
points de
digit
vie
or two can have dramatic impact and be all a character really
qui
needs.
peuvent avoir
So
beaucoup
characters
d'impact
including
dans le
Professor
jeu quand
X,
même, mais
Psylocke, Star-Lord,
donc
Yondu, S.H.I.E.L.D. characters like Nick Fury Jr., Black Widow, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Hawkeye all received small but impactful stamina updates.
il y en a toute une liste,
So you can look forward to having all of those available and
notamment le
game legal,
Professeur
ready to
X,
play and add to your rosters and start
mais
changing
les
up
agents
how
du
you
Shield,
view your squad
Hawkeye.
compositions later today,
Donc,
following
on
the
aura tout
conclusion of
ça sur le
Ministrap
site
as those
internet
things go up.
dès la fin du live.
In addition to the character rebalances, though, we also have some pretty significant core rulebook adjustments
Donc,
and changes to the
modification des
overall
règles aussi.
gameplay. As always, as we always talk about, we're constantly engaged with analysis, with observation, with data
On
collection.
passe beaucoup
We're
de
always
temps
watching
à
for how the
étudier,
game is
analyser
evolving,
comment la
changing within
game
players.
se
And it is
joue
our
et
goal
comment elle
and our
évolue.
role as
Et
developers and
donc,
designers of this
en
game
tant que
to
développeur,
ensure that
c'est
the
leur rôle de
gameplay is the
s'assurer
best it
que
possibly can be.
le
And
jeu
so we're
reste
constantly asking questions
dans
and
l'esprit
debating
qu'ils ont voulu, en
internally,
fait,
looking at testing various
et équilibré.
opportunities and differences to ensure that the game maintains at the cutting edge of the best player experience, the best Marvel tabletop miniatures game, and narrative that
Donc,
it can be. We've often made small changes in the
ils ont
past.
toujours fait de petits
Today,
changements.
as this new core rulebook
Aujourd'hui,
goes up,
avec
you're going to be
ce
seeing a
nouveau
number
core
of
rules,
alterations, and we're going to go over
il
some of the
va y
bigger
avoir
ones now. But
plusieurs
of course,
modifications,
always be sure to check out that article for the
mais
specifics
on aura tout
and
ça en
the
détail dans
actual core rules
l'article.
themselves to
Mais
dive in and see
voici
exactly
les
what's
quelques
changed.
petits changements qui arrivent.
The first one that I really
Donc,
want
le
to discuss
premier,
is all about missions. So how
c'est les
crisis
missions,
cards are chosen, how missions are developed.
comment les missions
A
sont
big
choisies, en
thing
fait.
that we're always watching for is making sure that turn zero, or the pre-planning of the game,
Ils appellent ça
including
le
roster
tour 0 ou
creation,
en tout cas
squad picking, mission
avant la
selection,
mission,
is
enfin avant
impactful,
la
but it
partie.
does not dictate the finality out or the final outcome of the game. If you talk about percentages, you want turn zero to be somewhere in that 20% range, and then the actual gameplay expression to be the vast majority of the experience. As we continue to look at the game, see where the game is with all these new crises that came in, the new crises that we're going to be adding,
Donc,
what we
le
really
fait qu'ils aient ajouté
established
des
and
des
saw
nouvelles
was that we
missions
needed
et
to
plus les
add
anciennes,
more randomness, more
ils
chance
veulent ajouter
to the
plus
mission selection
de côté
process.
random,
This really goes
plus de
back to the
chance,
theme
on
of
va dire
Crisis
que
Protocol, which is the idea behind the whole game is that you as the player, you as the crisis response team, are trying to adapt to a changing situation that you're never quite sure what it is. And that's why we allow you to bring a roster of 10 characters and build your squad beforehand from those assets. That's part of the enjoyment, and the planning is supposed to be that
viens-en au
you, the
but,
player,
Will.
are adapting to an unknowable situation. You might have
Ok, ça
close
va
to
permettre
perfect
aux gens
information, but you
de
should never have
s'adapter un peu
perfect
plus aux
information.
missions, si je
With
comprends
that,
bien, mais
one of the things that we looked at was how many crisis cards players had to
combien
bring
de
to the
cartes
game.
les
And we've
gens peuvent
increased that to
ajouter dans leur
5. This
roster.
adds
Et
more variety. It makes it much harder for lists to be
ils
able
ont
to pick
monté à
all the
5.
crises that they excel at because of the selection and the rotation of crisis cards. It gives us the ability to make sure that all players are playing with a couple of suboptimal if they're really skewing towards a single play pattern, or encouraging players to take a more all-comers approach and realize that they can't simply build a roster that excels in one aspect of the game without having some drawbacks to when this crisis selection happens. The other big thing is because we increased the randomness of the 5-card draw, making it less likely that you're going to get your optimal crisis card, we also wanted to involve the other player, your opponent, and yourself more in the selection process as well. So instead of simply drawing one from the deck, players now draw 2 from their appropriate crisis
Donc
card
au lieu
deck
d'en
that they
tirer
selected,
une dans le
and
deck de
then
l'adversaire, on va en tirer
your
2.
opponent
Et
will
ensuite,
pick one of the 2 cards that you drew to be
votre
the crisis
adversaire
card
va
selection
dire, bah non,
for
on va en
either the
choisir
Secure or
une
the
de ces
Abstract.
deux-là.
You will do
Voilà.
the same for the other, and that is how mission
Et on fait la
creation
même
will be
chose dans
made.
l'autre sens,
What we
etc.
saw in
Donc
testing
ça
with
rend les
all of the
choses un peu
iterations on the
plus
different systems that we
équilibrées
tried
et
is
ça
that
implique les
this
joueurs, quoi, en fait.
level of player choice
Plutôt que simplement,
was
tiens,
really
c'est
well
celle-là.
received among the testers, because it meant that if you saw a crisis card that you really didn't want to play, whether you felt that it was extremely bad for your roster selection
Mais
of
ça évite
characters
aussi des fois de se
and the
retrouver
squad
avec
that you
une
could
crise
do,
qui est
you could veto it and
totalement
go to the other
injouable
one.
pour l'équipe.
If you saw a crisis card and you just were tired of playing that crisis card, you could
Ou
also
que
say,
simplement
let's not
t'envoies une,
play
mais
that
t'en
one,
as
let's
marre de
play
jouer
this
ce
one.
scénario-là
So
tout
it
le
gives a
temps,
lot
bah,
of
tu
player
peux
agency
varier.
in terms of being a collaborative, which has
Plus
always been the
collaboratif,
idea
c'est ce
behind
que
the
je veux dire.
dynamic mission creation and crisis protocol system.
Mais je trouve
And
ça
it opens
sympa.
up a lot of flexibility and opportunity. And I think it really, what it does great is that it puts a lot more onus on clever and
Mais
knowledgeable
ça
roster
enregistre
construction
effectivement,
and
un
removes
niveau
that kind of turn
de
zero ability to be
maîtrise
able
et
to force the
de
game in one
connaissance du jeu,
direction.
on va dire, un peu
And
plus
now as
important,
players,
quoi.
we have to plan a lot more
Donc ça va
for all of
récompenser
these different
aussi,
opportunities. And we are
le
really,
bon
it really feels like
stratégie,
you're
enfin la bonne
responding to a
stratégie.
crisis, which has been really great. The last change that I want to talk about
Donc le
that kind
dernier
of goes
changement
along with mission setup,
qui va
and
avec
going
les
back to
missions.
that, you can't make perfect plans because you don't have perfect information, is there are now 2 priority roles in the game. There's the first one as normal, but now after deployment, but before the game begins, before the first
Donc après le
turn round 1
déploiement, mais
begins,
avant que
players will roll for priority again, and the player who wins that will be
D'accord,
the
donc en
first
fait, on va y
player.
avoir 2
This
priorités.
means that you
Une
no
première
longer
pour,
can guarantee as you're
savoir qui
set up for
commence et
deployment
ensuite,
that you know
savoir
exactly
qui
when in the
va se
turn
déployer
order
en
you're going
premier.
to go. So this again challenges players to say, are you going to set up for an aggressive, potent
Ouais, donc en
midline
fait,
objective grab
on sait pas,
with the
oui,
risk
ça
that you'll
va
be exposed
apporter
if
un
you
petit peu
don't
plus
wind
de
up going
variété au
first? Are you
jeu,
going to set up more
dans le terme de
conservatively? Are you going to
déploiement,
create
quoi.
backup plans? And that's really the key to all of this, is we want
Peut-être
players to not
justement pour
only have
s'adapter un
plan
peu
A,
plus aux
but
missions.
plan
C'est
A
pas
through
c'est pas
plan
totalement idiot.
27, right? There's a great Cyclops quote that Josh Cologne gave me the other day. He said, we have plan 2 because plan B assumes that we only have 26 plans, and we have way more than that. And that's really the goal here as well. We want the game to be a dynamic challenge that players are constantly solving within the play of the game itself, not just at turn 0, although knowing your turn 0 still gives you a strong advantage.
Va-t-il parler du Peerless? Ça,
The
c'est
other
une
big
bonne question.
change that I really want to highlight
Enfin, le
here
dernier,
for the game that is probably going to take a bit of adjustment for players, but I think has opened up a lot of
va
really cool
demander peut-être un peu plus
opportunities
d'ajustement aux
and really
joueurs,
smooth the gameplay out in a way that I think will be productive for
mais qui devrait rendre
the
le jeu plus
modern
fluide.
experience and moving us forward into all these great new characters we're talking about, is that damage from throws has changed.
Les dommages des
Now damage
lancers
from throws is no
vont
longer
changer.
based on the size of the object or
Sont
character plus 1. It
désormais
is now all a flat 3. So the baseline
Désormais, en
damage
fait,
for
il y aura
collisions
plus
is
la
all
taille
3
de ce qui est
going
lancé, on
forward.
va dire plus
What
simple,
this does
ça
is it
sera
really brings
3
in
points barres.
line the fact that
Ça,
games
je sais
could
pas.
feel skewed. Players felt very disadvantaged on certain tabletops that may have
Certains
larger
joueurs se
sized line of sight
trouvaient
blocking terrain, but then
désavantagés
faced characters that could throw
selon les
that
terrains qui
terrain
étaient
because
présents.
hitting 4 or 5 guaranteed damage against most
Ouais, je trouve
physical
ça dommage
defenses
parce
could
que
lead to a really bad experience.
ça
It
peut
could
lisser
lead
les
to a
tables,
lot of
ça peut
predetermined
lisser les
outcomes, and we
tables,
don't want that.
mais bon,
On the flip
tu
side,
te prends une
you
poubelle
know, size
taille 1,
1
tu vas te prendre 3, quoi.
terrain was kind of meaningless. You never really considered throwing it because 2 damage against most physical defenses was really nothing. You could hope for an extreme outcome, but it wasn't a lot. By kind of bringing
Ça va
everything
booster
into
un peu
midline, making
les
sure that
petits
everything's
lancers,
3, we
mais ça
created a
va réduire
system. We
l'impact des
created a
très
new system
gros, genre
where
je te
the vast
balance
majority
un
of
gros
physical
camion taille
defenses
5,
can hold up
4
well against
4,
throw
enfin
damage,
bon.
but you're still guaranteed to get some damage through on the average, but it's not as extreme. Additionally, and I think the most exciting part from our testing was that this really opened the door for players to be able to add a lot more larger line of
Ah,
sight
vous allez
blocking
pas
terrain
d'accord, hein.
and movement blocking terrain without having to worry about what it meant for the game balance in terms of the characters that were able to throw it.
Un
This
énorme
makes
changement,
the
oui, je suis d'accord.
tabletop and navigating the battlefield much more interesting, much more challenging. It gives you more opportunities to use cover, to use line of sight blocking, to hide your characters without necessarily having the distinct drawback of size 4 and size 3 buildings or terrain features being extremely
Alors,
deadly in certain
ils disent
matchups.
que ça va
It
changer
also
quand même la
allows for a lot
physionomie
larger
des
density of
décors
terrain,
parce
which is something that we've
que
consistently been looking at,
même les
wanting to
petits
implement into the
décors,
game
donc on
because
va
the more
peut-être avoir
terrain,
un
the
peu
more
plus de
interesting
gros
the battlefield, the
décors
more choices
qui vont
players
permettre
will
de faire
make,
des couverts, de se
and just
cacher,
the more
etc.
overall
Parce
tactical
que ça
enjoyment
changera
that we
rien en
found
termes de
within the
lancer
game.
et de
So
voilà.
this throw change is
Donc
going to be a
je
really
sais
big
pas.
one as well.
J'avoue,
It
va
went through a lot of
falloir tester
iterations,
tout
a
ça.
lot of different testing. We're very excited about it.
En tout cas, ils
It
disent
does
qu'ils ont
give a
beaucoup
lift to
testé
characters who have throws like Magneto, who's able to
et que
throw size 1
ça
terrain now a lot more dangerous. Characters like Spider-Man, who has size 2 throw, get to utilize their throws more often. Characters who can throw large just have more opportunity to throw things. You can also use those throws to remove that line of sight or movement blocking in a more strategic and tactical way.
ouais.
So again, this is one of those ones that may take a little bit of adjustment, but we've really seen the benefits of it, and we're excited for what it means for the game going forward.
Après, je pense
Additionally,
que ça va
there's a
poser
lot
un
of other
problème de
smaller
data sur
updates
parce qu'il y en
and
a qui sont
clarifications that are
spécialisés dans
happening in the
des
rulebook.
gros
Those will all be
lancers et
covered
d'autres
in the
pas, donc
article. But perhaps the most interesting
je
one is the last one
comprends
that I
pas
want
trop
to cover, which is
leur.
brand new to the
Mais
core
bon,
rules. It's in
alors,
Appendix 1, which
ah,
includes rules for new objective token types that are going to be part of the upcoming Crisis card pack released in early next year.
donc un
This
nouveau
pack, as we
carte
showed at
Crisis Pack qui arrive avec un nouveau
Adepticon
type de crise.
2026, or we teased it at Adepticon 2026, is the Tolerance is Extinction narrative crisis card pack. This
Donc,
pack brings a brand new
zéro
mechanic to
tolérance.
Crisis cards with what are called source extracts. Source extracts,
Source
you can kind of
extracts.
imagine, are containers. They are the things that hold the extract. They're not the extract themselves. So
D'accord.
what interacting with these objectives thematically does is it gives you the ability to pull like the vial out of it. So instead
Donc,
of
c'est des sources
grabbing
extracts dans
the
lesquelles on va
serum
pouvoir
vial off the
sortir
ground
les
itself,
objets qui sont les extracts,
players
mais qui
are
ne
now
sont pas les
interacting with
extracts
the
en eux-mêmes.
dispenser and they're
Et
getting the
qui,
vial
en fait,
from
ça va
the
être des
dispenser.
distributeurs, quelque part, à token d'extract.
The source
Donc,
extracts are really interesting because what it does is it means that players can grab extracts, but most source extracts disappear at the end of the round or on other conditions.
mais
when
alors
they
attention,
drop.
la plupart de ces
This
extracts
means that players will constantly
disparaissent à
have
la
to go
fin du
back to
tour
source extract
et qu'il
objective
faudra
tokens
retourner
to
du coup à
get
la
more
source
extract tokens to be able
pour
to
en
score.
récupérer d'autres.
So what it does is changes the play pattern on how we've seen extracts go,
Donc
where
ça
you grab
change
an
le mode de
extract,
jeu, c'est-à-dire
retreat with
qu'une
it,
fois que vous
and
avez
then try to
l'extract sur
score it
vous,
for the
c'est
rest
pas
of the game.
définitif, quoi.
You now have to really think about your positioning, knowing that you're going to have to go back and multiple times throughout the course of the game over the number of rounds, interact with the source extract to make things work. You'll see on the other side that we have a brand new secure objective from the Zero Tolerance Crisis card pack. This one has a fun mechanic where one of the secures will turn off throughout the different rounds, so you always have to be
Ah,
dynamically
ouais, donc on va avoir des choses où, selon les tours, il y a des objectifs
in the
qui,
narrative
en fait,
scenario
s'éteignent
campaign. If
et
you've
qui
played
reviennent peut-être plus
War
tard.
of
Donc,
Kings, then you know that
où on va
in
avoir des
addition to just
objectifs
providing
comme ça
brand new
qui
crisis cards that
sont
you can mix and
un peu
match,
plus
there's
variables.
also a narrative campaign structure that allows you to pair the crisis cards together to tell the story of the comic event that the crisis card pack is drawing from. This one represents the X-Men breaking into Bastion's containment facility and trying to spring their friends from his imprisonment.
Donc ça va apporter un peu plus de fun dans le jeu. Alors je suis pas sûr
These
que
two
les
crisis
compétiteurs
cards that you
cherchaient
see
du
on the
fun,
screen
mais
are going to be
un peu
made
plus de
available as
fiabilité. Là,
print and
c'est pas
plays
forcément le cas.
for you all to be able to download later today, and they are going to be game legal, so you can immediately start adding them to your games of Marvel Crisis
Donc alors ça va être
Protocol and
téléchargeable
start to get used to how
et
these
on va pouvoir
source
commencer à les
objectives
utiliser tout de suite,
really
en fait.
change the nature of the game and how they
Avant la
play
sortie même
when the
de
other
ces...
8 exciting crisis cards that have yet to be
Donc,
revealed
enfin,
from this
ces
pack
deux-là. Après, il y en
do
a
become
8 autres
available to you all
qui
as
arrivent
games as well.
derrière, mais qui
You'll
ne sont
also
pas dans
see
le
that we're not
téléchargement.
done with the Sentinel goodness. Operation Zero Tolerance also introduces a brand new character
Donc,
in
un nouveau
the
personnage.
Omega Sentinels, or the Prime Sentinels, excuse me.
Ouais.
Omega Sentinel, Prime Sentinel. I always get those two mixed up. In the Prime Sentinels. So these are humans that have been metamorphed by Bastion's nanobots into Sentinel
Donc
Hunters.
ça, ce sont des humains qui ont
Much
été
like
transformés par
their
Bastion.
larger cousins, the Mark IV Sentinels. These Prime Sentinels can be taken in pairs. So you can take two of them. The box will include two so you can maximize that out. These
Donc,
guys
des
add
figurines
another
qu'on va
really
jouer en
interesting
paire.
lower threat option for building out full rosters or full squads dedicated
Et ça va
purely
permettre de faire
around the
des
Sentinels
petites sentinelles à bas coût, entre guillemets, quoi.
All right.
Et
Moving
donc
on
de
from
permettre de combler
this
les
crisis card
points
pack, the new
pour les
crises and
sentinelles.
everything else, all of the documents that are going to be available later today, including the character rebalances, the updated core rulebook, and these cards. We of course have more repacks coming as well as discussed.
Donc alors,
at the
on
start
a
of
un
Adepticon.
peu
So
avec
if
plein
there
de
are characters that are
repacks.
still missing from your collection or you have been
Ok.
unable to get,
Et puis
know
bah,
that
donc
those are still
Bastion,
on the
Nimrod et
plan
Omega
and will be
Sentinelle qui
rolling
arrivent
out
directement
over the
dans un
course
character
of the
pack.
next
Donc
year
ça,
as
c'est plutôt
well.
bien aussi.
One of the things that we did at Gen Con, speaking of events that we went to in person, is we surprised everyone by sneaking in a couple of Gamma-powered characters into the display case.
Oh là là.
I'm very excited
Alors,
to show you the full
le leader,
unit,
Red Hulk,
character pack
Sensationnel
for these
She-Hulk.
guys, which is the leader, Red
Donc
Hulk,
ça,
and
on en avait déjà
Sensational
entendu
She-Hulk.
parler.
These characters will be coming out later next year on
Donc
your
ils
tables.
arrivent
Red Hulk does
plus tard,
bring
en
a
fin
brand
de
new
l'année.
leadership and affiliation. Sensational She-Hulk is a brand new version of She-Hulk,
Donc c'est une
and the
nouvelle version
leader
de She-Hulk
adds some pretty fun
avec un
new
nouveau
tricks and
pouvoir de
powers to the
commandement qui ajoute
affiliations that he
des
slots into.
petits
So
faits
this
de
will
jeu.
be a very, very exciting pack to see hit onto tables. And that Red Hulk
On est
is
d'accord,
just
toujours rien
incredible.
de
He
nouveau.
does have some alternate build options, including half of the Smash
Si,
car
un nouveau,
that he can use to bludgeon
un
you
nouveau
with
pack de
if
mission.
that's what you choose. So some cool hobby content
J'adore le
and
leader. Ouais.
choice there. All right.
Je regrette la
Now,
pause du leader. Alors,
I need
attention.
everyone to take a breath and prepare themselves
Faut que tout le
because
monde prenne une respiration et se prépare.
what
Parce
we're about
que
to show you is one of the most highly anticipated
et une des choses que les
villains
gens,
that we have been waiting internally to spring upon the community for quite some time.
une des choses qu'ils
And it's the
attendent le
one and
plus de
only
pouvoir nous dévoiler.
Onslaught is going to be storming around the
Onslaught.
tables later next year. Glorious,
Onslaught.
absolutely glorious miniature. Perhaps one of my favorites from all the ones that we've shown, and that's a high bar because we've shown quite a bit of cool stuff. But if you're a Marvel vs. Capcom fan like myself, Onslaught is just one of those characters that is absolutely captivating, and it is super thrilling to finally be able to bring him to the game. He is one of the few characters that when
Ok.
we started the whole process, our lead developer, Will Pagani, was like, we have to do
C'est un
Onslaught.
des
This character
personnages qu'ils
just looks
attendaient de sortir
cool.
depuis le tout début du jeu.
I
Bon,
don't even
ok.
care what he does. And Onslaught is making his triumphant
Je cherche le
entrance
nom du Non,
into
voilà. Ouais.
Marvel
Et oui,
Crisis
c'est pour fin
Protocol.
d'année
He
prochaine.
likely will
Donc,
have some things to say about the Sentinels. He'll likely have some things to say about the X-Men. He's got his own agenda, and he's an
oui,
absolute
voilà, je
monster.
vois ce que tu veux dire, Alice.
We also have some pretty cool
Ah,
terrain that's
attention,
going to be coming
des terrains
next
qui
year.
arrivent.
Building out.
Voilà,
Speaking
la
of,
Dark
the
Dimension.
changes to
Cool,
terrain
la Dark
throws and how
Dimension.
we're looking at really increasing the viability and interest on tables.
J'aime
The
beaucoup
Dark Dimension terrain,
celui-là, mais
which is
alors,
coming in a number of
à
different packs.
transporter ou à ranger, ça
This
va être
stuff
une
is just
horreur.
eye-catching and glorious on the table, from the dimensional incursion, like Sumagorath style monster, to the destroyed sanctum, where Doctor Strange got a little too willy-nilly with
C'est
his
pas grand-chose,
spells,
c'est 4 fantastiques.
to
Ouais,
just more dimensional
À Pand, oui,
incursions.
je pense qu'à Pand,
Seeing
ça
this
va
stuff
être.
on the tabletop, it really sets the stage and brings
Alors,
everyone
si,
together.
ça,
Some
les petits
awesome
trucs, ça
one-shot
va.
cards that go
Là,
with
déjà,
this to
ça
add
devient
additional
casse-couille. Mais
rules
alors, les deux
to
autres,
really get that
waouh.
dimensional incursion
Mais
flair
par contre,
into your
ouais,
games.
pour faire une
I
table Dark
can't wait for
Dimension,
people to be able to
ça
see
peut être
that.
très très cool, quoi.
And the scale is just not done justice on these frames. Like these things,
Ouais,
the
ils sont pas
Sanctum
tous à
and
l'échelle,
the
attention.
dimensional incursion, like
Par
Shumagorath
exemple,
style monster,
lui
they're
n'est
massive.
pas
They're
du
huge
tout à la
pieces.
même échelle.
It's been really fun to be able to work on this and to just see
Ou
more of
ça,
the Marvel
peut-être
universe
pas.
be able to
Enfin,
be
je vois.
reflected on the tabletop itself. And speaking about spooky and
Alors,
dimensional
attention.
incursions, Crisis Protocol, even further into the future, will be getting a lot more spooky with screamtacular characters, including the
Oh,
Orb,
alors,
Blackheart,
la
and
carte,
Jack-O-Lantern.
Jack-O-Lantern et l'orbe.
So a couple of deep cuts here for maybe some
Ouais.
folks. Again, talking about that Marvel vs. Capcom, Blackheart, Marvel Superheroes. If you were a fan of that fighting game, you'll recognize Blackheart right away. Everyone's favorite thing about this pack, besides the orb and how amazingly awesome he is, it's a giant eyeball man on a motorcycle.
Ouais.
He's Ghost Rider's like #1 arch nemesis. Like, what more could you ask for? It's got to be the little devil doll on Jack-O-Lantern's base. We have a lot of folks internally who have claimed they are going to adopt that little guy when he shows up. But just a fun kind of cut
ouais, que
into
des
the
personnages
Marvel
hyper
universe
secondaires.
itself.
Ouais.
Rounding out our future look of
Attention.
things to be excited for and coming before we do this all
Ok.
over again at Adepticon
Hulkling, Wiccan et
2026
Speed.
is the new Avengers are going to
Les
be
nouveaux
making
Avengers.
their
Donc ça, c'est
entrance into the game,
plutôt bien.
with Hulk and Wiccan Speed being in one side of it. And then we also have the pairing side, which is America
Chavez,
Chavez,
Kate Bishop, les Patriotes. Ok.
So not only do these
Donc
characters bring
vraiment,
a
ouais,
brand
les
new
nouveaux
Avengers
Avengers.
affiliation
Ok.
with them, they also, of course, slot into several other affiliations, bringing a host of new tools
Donc
and
ils
tricks and
iront aussi dans
abilities
d'autres
that players can
affiliations,
utilize
mais
within their
en tout
rosters
cas,
or
voilà.
squads. It's been a joy to work on these as
Pour aller avec
well.
Iron
I
Lad,
know
ok.
Josh himself has poured his heart and soul into these
C'est
characters.
logique.
He's a huge new Avengers fan, and it's just fun to finally get to these characters
Ça
and
collera
bring
avec
them
les sorties
onto the
Disney,
tabletop
peut-être.
itself.
Peut-être, ouais.
And with that,
et attention.
I believe that not only did I finish on time, which people were questioning, but we have come to the conclusion of everything we have
voilà,
to
ça
show you
sera
for
tout.
this roadmap. Now, as I
Ça sera
mentioned,
tout pour cette roadmap.
Adepticon in
Donc,
March
ça a été beaucoup
2026, we're
plus
going to
long
do a whole nother
que
roadmap with a
Shatterpoint.
whole bunch of new stuff, a whole lot of new looks, everything else going on. But thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate all of your passion, all of your excitement for these last 6 years.
Au final, pareil, pas grand-chose d'annoncer. Hein.
Wild ride. We can't wait to do
pas
more.
grand-chose d'annoncer. Hein.
Looking forward to
Donc pas de
continuing the
4
rebalance
fantastiques,
program, to
pas
continue to make
de
this game the best
grosses
it possibly
nouveautés, bon,
can
à
be,
part Onslaught,
introducing
mais
new and exciting
bon,
ways in
voilà.
which to engage and play with the game.
Mais
Of course,
on
bringing
est,
out
on
all
est
the
2 fois
exciting
plus long que
characters that have
Shatterpoint,
yet to see their
facile. Hein,
time on
facile.
the tabletop in
Pas
the
de
Marvel
Doctor
universe
Doom,
to
pas
the
de, non,
game.
ouais, très déçu
Thank you again.
de l'évolution des
Enjoy.
règles.
Be sure to check out
Je
the
sais pas,
website for all of the
autant
content
le
and
coup
all
des
of the
5
documents that
cartes
we talked about, ready and available for you to
et
start
avec le
playing
système
with
d'en
for
choisir
free
2
today.
et puis
Until
hop,
next
l'autre en
time.
choisit une, enfin, non, je demande à voir. Je demande à voir. Je demande à voir. Je trouve que potentiellement, ça peut avoir de l'intérêt par rapport à, bah, comme il disait, à pas tout le temps subir les mêmes cartes ou à jouer les mêmes missions, enfin ce genre de choses. Par contre, pour les tailles de lancer, là, je trouve ça dommage. Je trouve que ça enlève au jeu une de ses saveurs. Ça, je suis pas fan. Je suis pas fan du tout. Donc bon, on verra ce que ça donne. Et puis au final, bon, alors pas mal d'annonces, on va dire, par rapport à des choses qu'on connaissait déjà, donc c'est pas grande nouveauté, même si on est content de savoir qu'ils arrivent et qu'ils sortent. Et puis bah, quelques nouveautés, mais pas tant que ça, hein, combien? 6-10 nouveaux qu'on connaissait pas. Les deux sentinelles avec enfin les pseudo sentinelles avec le pack de nouvelles missions. Et puis ça fait 8 ou 10. J'avoue, je m'y perds. Dites-moi si je me trompe, mais ouais, bon. Je sais pas. Tu vas fêter avec. Oui, mon Ludo. T'as raison. T'as raison. Euh, Petit décor. Ouais. Bah, si, tu pourras toujours mettre des petits décors, mais on faire taille 3 quoi. Enfin, taille 2. Ils seront tous taille 2 quoi, en fait. Ça fera tous 3 dommages. Bon. Une map décharge publique avec uniquement les poubelles et les carcasses de voitures en décor. Ouais, c'est ça. Bah, avec que des tailles 2 partout. Que des tailles 2 partout. Je trouve ça dommage. Ça va limiter. Alors qu'ils nous sortent des gros terrains là. C'est pareil, je suis pas totalement fan là, des nouveaux décors Dark Dimension. Ok, c'est très cool qu'il y ait des trucs Dark Dimension, mais j'attends de les voir en vrai parce que là, ça me hype pas en fait. Je sais pas, je sais pas. Très cool par contre la petite cinématique avec l'histoire des Sentinelles. Ça, je trouve que c'était cool. Maintenant, oui, pas autant de hype que les autres années, quoi. Déjà beaucoup moins de news, je pense. Donc, j'avoue, je suis perplexe. Je suis perplexe quant à ce que AMG nous propose. Est-ce qu'il y a des problèmes dans le studio dont on n'est pas au courant? Est-ce que, pas que je sache, et après, c'est pas forcément tout. Est-ce qu'il y a des tensions avec Disney et qu'il y aurait des choses qui prennent plus de temps que prévu? C'est possible. Bon, Marvel, pas bon protocole ce soir. C'est peut-être. Il y a des choses, j'attends de voir. J'attends de voir. Quand on voit le profil de certaines choses comme bah là, merde, en menace 7, Adam Warlock, j'attends de voir parce que au moins pour une fois on a un vrai puissant qui est costé quoi. Pas un docteur Roulette, ah, oui, menace 4, youpi! Enfin, non, quoi. Ça marche pas, ça, c'est pas la réalité pour moi. Bon, après, voilà. À voir ce que ces changements de mécanique apportent. Je pense que s'ils les ont bêta testés un certain temps, enfin, et qu'ils les sortent, c'est qu'a priori ça va dans le bon sens pour le jeu, mais je pense que ça va en dérouter plus d'un. J'espère que ça va pas en dégoûter du jeu un certain nombre, parce que ça serait dommage. Mais bon. C'est pour beaucoup une confirmation de ce qui était déjà annoncé, c'est-à-dire et l'arrière? J'ai pas compris. Oui, et cette espère de Peerless complètement sorti des radars, c'est pareil, je comprends pas, parce que je trouve que ça aurait été une bonne règle d'avoir des personnages comme ça qu'on peut pas spammer en permanence. Enfin, si j'avais bien compris ce qu'ils voulaient faire avec le Peerless, mais peut-être que ça sera réservé à une prochaine édition, je ne sais pas. On verra. En tout cas, normalement, si on va sur le site d'Atomic Mass Games, allez, on va y aller avant la reprise de l'autre. Donc, si on va sur hop, Marvel Crisis Protocol, transmission, voyons voir ce qu'il y a. Bon, bah, il n'y a rien. Voilà. Donc, tools update. Ah bah, non, c'est tout ce qu'il y a. Bon, après, il doit y avoir plein de trucs en print and play, mais alors, site qui rame, ou alors c'est moi, je sais pas, mais il va y avoir 12 000 Pékins qui sont en train d'aller sur le site. Et oui, quelques mises à jour, donc rules page, OK. Ah d'accord, OK. Donc il y a des modifications sur les crises, bon ça on est d'accord. Les nouvelles, donc les 2 des choses qui changent. Des mises à jour de cartes avec des profils, donc on a Cassandra Nova, OK. Il y en avait plein d'autres. Alors, ouais, alors, voilà, les sentinelles, OK, les deux Team Sentinelles, donc Dormammu qui change. Comme je les connais pas par cœur, je ne saurais pas dire ce qui change, mais a priori, c'était surtout des donc lui, c'est son pouvoir d'affiliation qui change. Et puis voilà, donc Black Widow, c'est des PV qui changent, donc là, je pourrais passer à 6-6, alors peut-être qu'avant il y était pas. 5-6, oui, là, je pense qu'il y a un changement en termes de points de vie. Nick Fury, pareil, 7 points de vie, je pense que c'était pas ça avant. Les agents du Shield, bon, voilà. Emma Frost avec donc sa mécanique qui change. Et du coup, elle est plus endurante. Ah bah oui, 5-5-4. Waouh! Ouais. Donc là, elle est plus offensive. Là, beaucoup plus défensive, tu m'étonnes, avec un 5-5-4 en défense. Oui, OK. Hein, et les 4 fantasy, c'est pour quand? Bah, le jour où ça sortira. Voilà. Hein. Professeur Roulette qui passe à 6-6 en PV. Alors, je sais pas s'il y a d'autres changements. Psylocke qui change aussi. Je sais pas ce qui change. Star-Lord qui change aussi. Tiens. Ah bah, c'est marqué en plus. Injured Side Stamina passe de 6 à 5. De 5, oui, passe de 5 à 6. Je vais reprendre. Là, pareil, 5 à 6 sur le côté blessé. Lui, 5 à 6 sur le côté blessé. Bon, voilà, on a vu pour OK. Donc Star-Lord. Pour Yondu, pardon, il passe à 7 en version voilà, et à 6 au lieu de 5 en version voilà. OK. Bon. Bon bah voilà. Voilà, vous avez les changements. Désolé pour ceux qui sont en train de vomir là. Une de super power. Ah ouais, ils peuvent extract, jouer avec les extracts objectifs au lieu des assets civilian tokens. OK. Lui, il passe de 6 à 5. Lui de 6 à 5 aussi. De 6 à 5. Dormammu. Alors Dormammu. Shadow Bolt Attack triggers update to require failure instead of wilds. D'accord. Oui, donc c'est un changement des mécaniques par rapport au dé. Bon, enfin, il va y avoir beaucoup de choses. On pourra lire tout ça plus en détail sur leur site et ça sera plus simple. Bon, bah, en tout cas, un peu déçu. Un peu déçu. Je trouve qu'il y a des choses bien et puis d'autres où ben, j'ai peur. J'ai peur des nouveaux décors déjà parce que je pense que ça va être voilà. J'attends de voir les nouvelles crises aussi, voir ce que ça va donner. La mécanique pour les changements de crise, moi, me paraît bonne, à voir. L'histoire des lancers, par contre, je pense que là, ça va poser problème à beaucoup de gens. Je sais pas. Loin de la hype du dernier Mini Extravaganza. Bah oui, je te comprends. Je te comprends. Bon, les changements de profil, voilà, je veux dire, gagner un point de vie, bon, c'est pas ça qui va changer la game. Même si ça va peut-être apporter un petit peu plus de durabilité à des personnages qui justement restaient pas assez longtemps sur table. Donc, bon. On va faire une courte pause du coup, hein, de une dizaine de minutes avant de retourner pour aller avec Légion. J'espère que là, il va avoir de la hype parce que Monsieur AMG, au bout d'un moment, faudrait bien nous faire rêver un peu plus que ça. Hein. Donc, rendez-vous d'ici 10 minutes. Donc, je vais couper ce live-là et je vais en faire un autre. Comme ça, ce sera plus facile pour les gens pour retrouver et pour choisir le jeu qu'ils veulent regarder. Hein. Merci à vous. Bonne suite de Miss Travaganza et à tout à l'heure. Ciao, ciao.